Hello and welcome. Today isn't the Growth Strategy podcast. That's what I normally do on Mondays. But one of the things I was very conscious to do, almost as part of the Roadmap MBA kind of stuff that I do, but likewise, it's to create content and talk to people where actually we're talking about stuff which people are genuinely kind of interested in. One of the things which has come up a lot, and actually I'm genuinely interested in it to learn for my own business, is all to do with Facebook ads. Because I think we all know what Facebook is. I think that's like a given. And I think for many years, I've seen people talk about Facebook ads and it's a way to target people and do stuff. But actually, I've never tried it. I've never done it, etc. So one of the things a lot of my audience is entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people in their careers who a lot of whom have ambitions to do stuff. And I thought, well, what's the best way to do it? It's just to have start to do these masterclass kind of series. So this first one is on Facebook ads, but I'm probably going to do more. So, likewise, you might see it on employment law, or you name it. If it's something that I think is interesting to a wider audience, like Fairlow could be a good example with HR and stuff. That is almost my kind of plan. So I'm going to speak to Natalie today about Facebook. If you join us, it'll probably be 20 minutes or so. Hopefully it's of interest. And if you have any questions at all, you can drop them in the chat or comment on the feed and it should pop up on my screen as well. And I will ask. So Natalie, I'm just going to bring you in. There we go. Now everyone can see you. We're good to go.
Fantastic. Hi, everyone.
So,
Hope you're having a good day.
I was going to say, would you like to just introduce yourself so people know the context of who you are?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Natalie Devonshire. I work for PR and social media agency Harvey Hugo. We're based over in Darlington. And yes, so I am an account manager at Harvey Hugo. So my role at Harvey Hugo is all about building the client relationships, working closely with my clients to make sure that their strategies are implemented, to create campaign ideas, and to help with advertising as well. So this is kind of a great topic to discuss, and I'm really looking forward to talking about it with you, Steve.
No, cool. So what I thought would be interesting is that you always have to assume that the audience have different levels of knowledge. That I think for me, I think it's important, more important than most people give it credit for, that actually when you have a business or an organization, it could be a charity, it could be anything, that actually you need to shout about and champion who you are to raise awareness that if you're trying to fundraise for a charity or drive sales for a business or whatever, and it's a long game. So I think most people almost understand what is the need for advertising. I don't think people always kind of put as much effort into it as they maybe should do or could do to keep it going because it's so important. But then when it comes to kind of paid advertising, would you be able to almost give us a bit of a, what's the difference?
Yeah, of course. So kind of paid advertising itself is a great way to boost awareness of your business and to reach new audiences as well. There's so many different options out there for advertising, whether that's, like traditional print, getting into a magazine or a newspaper. But quite often some companies forget about the digital world, and it's so big and so vast, and it's just an ideal place to grow that digital profile. And there's kind of lots of different things you can do on paid advertising. I could talk for hours on it, but I won't go on. But there's lots of different options, from things like selecting different objectives. That could be general brand awareness. That could be just reach. It could be driving traffic to your website, or it could be lead generation. And then you need to delve into the different types of ad that you can do. So it's not only just text ads. You can add an image, you can have a video, you could have a carousel of images. So there's lots of different things out there that you can try and do. And the world of paid advertising is just so vast, but it's like you say, it needs to be looked into and explored for any type of business, really, whether that is B2B or B2C.
Cool. And hi, Jonathan. Jonathan, if you've got any questions, please drop them in the chat as well. I think what's quite interesting is that most people have social media and most companies have social media. So for me, if you have followers, if I post on my Twitter channel, generally the people that follow me will see it. But unless I use clever hashtags and people follow the hashtag, I'm guessing the whole point is that people outside of my following won't see it. Would it be correct to say that paid advertising is to hit people that aren't within or might not be within your current audience?
Yeah, definitely. You've kind of hit the nail on the head there. Like you say, when you send a post out, you're usually just sending it to your own followers, and unless they engage with it, whether they comment on it, like or share it, you're not going to reach a new audience, or like you're saying, using hashtags. So advertising is that great way to really target those who you want to target. So if you've got a specific campaign that you're, for example, only looking for males who live in Darlington who are aged between 20 to 40 years old, you can do that on Facebook. It's really specific, and that's why it's really important to do advertising, because you can make sure that you are using that budget well, and it's going to make sure it's only placing your advert and your content in front of the audience that you want to target. So that's just why it's really important to kind of delve into that world, really.
No, that's cool. So again, is this the same on like LinkedIn? You know, so on different platforms, because LinkedIn used to get a lot more organic reach, which basically means that when you post something, it would just, spread. And I've noticed that seems to be throttled back recently, but that could be because maybe they're selling the advertising to, they want to make money off it. But is it the same on LinkedIn as Facebook and other stuff?
Yeah, so all platforms are similar but also different. So it is a case of the algorithms change pretty much hour by hour these days. It's incredibly difficult to stay on top of them. But you're right, it is a case of, at the moment, kind of the trend is that unfortunately, unless you're paying, to boost some form of content, your content's not going to be seen by new audiences, unless, like I say, your current audience is doing a lot of engagement. But then it's not necessarily reaching the audience that you want to target, because you may just be reaching their friends and family who might not be your specific target market. So yeah, LinkedIn's another kind of minefield, really. But as you say, they're all different, but they are similar in the sense of you do need to do that bit of paid advertising to help your organic post as well, just to reach out a bit further.
No, that's good. I genuinely found it interesting because Simon, hello as well. I'm sorry, I'm not wearing the new t-shirt, but so take Simon Rudd's business. So he's got it's an apparel business which sells t-shirts and merchandise to help raise money and awareness for mental health charities. Simon launched recently. I bought a t-shirt which arrived this morning, hence his comment. But actually, if it's a way, I guess. So if Simon wanted to hit 500 people or 5,000 people in the northeast of England, how could he go about doing that?
So directly through Facebook, all he needs to do is you just need to decide what your objective is, whether that, as I say, is brand awareness, whether it's traffic to the website, and then you just need to decide how you're going to promote it. Obviously, the content side of it is one of the biggest selling points. If you've not got engaging content, if you've not got that eye-catching image or video, people aren't going to click and engage, they're just going to scroll straight past. So you need to have that content there, but it's really simple to kind of follow through Facebook advertising. And, you can follow through the steps, but there is obviously the benefits of working with someone like an agency like Harvey Hugo, who might be able to help you with a bit more kind of in-depth research, because we do spend a lot of time delving into the audiences, looking at the different demographics, picking out the key target markets, because you could quite happily spend, say, £500 targeting, all of the Northeast. But if, Joe Blogs isn't going to go and buy your product or isn't going to invest in your service, they're not interested, there's no point in targeting them. That's why you really need to narrow it down, and you look into kind of the different behaviours, the different kind of interests that they have. On Facebook, you can even target by kind of income as well, which I found very interesting, and different kind of demographics like that. So, but also it's worth bearing in mind that you can also target your current followers as well. If there was a particular campaign that might be more specific, it might be an exclusive offer just for your current customers that you might want to just target them specifically. So there's lots of different avenues out there, but it's definitely easy to follow once you kind of go through the steps that Facebook gives you.
No, but it's really funny. Part of the reason why I wanted to do this, because I'm actually interested selfishly, just completely for myself as well.
I just want to know.
Jonathan, I'll come to your question in a second, but I think it's a really good thing that I hadn't necessarily thought of, is that yes, I could log on, or Simon or Jonathan could go onto Facebook, pay £500, and then in theory, people will see it. Is it a case of, because pay-per-click advertising, you only pay if they click through, is that right?
Yes.
But Facebook is on views, so they don't have to click through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so there is the traffic options as well, which means it'll only send, if you go for like a traffic ad, for example, Facebook will only place your advert in front of people who are most likely to click. So even if someone is in your demographic, but they don't often click on links from Facebook, they most likely won't target them.
Okay.
So it's quite interesting to see how that works. And what else is important is just to have in the back of your mind that just maybe you might do a brand awareness one, it might not get the engagement you think it would get. Don't be put off by that. Do different types of ads, try different images, try different content. It's very much a case of testing.
What I was going to go to next is the fact that with, anyone in theory could buy the ad.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the important thing is that it's the demand generation. So, but you need to make the content good enough that people actually like watching it and then engage with it. And arguably, I actually think that's the most difficult bit. So for instance, I could go and, create stuff, and I'm hopefully quite good at creating stuff. But then likewise, it needs to be targeted exactly for the audience, but then cool enough that they don't mind seeing it on the feed so they don't unfollow you. But then at the right level that it's high enough quality that it reflects the brand properly.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? It's not an easy... It's funny, I obviously came into this without knowing what to expect, but it's almost where the more we're talking about it seems definitely worth it. And this isn't an ad, by the way, just to actually pay to create proper, decent content to get that engagement. Does that make sense? Because even on YouTube, I watch a lot of YouTube, but you get adverts that come up and some of them are just obnoxious and you can tell they're quite cheaply done. But I'm guessing people have paid to get that in front of me, that almost it has to be good stuff as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. You have to think about, don't just go ahead and set up an advert and just post any content. You need to think about what it is you're trying to achieve. What is it that your audience want to see? What do they want to click on? What do they want to be inspired by? And that's the most important. And it's not a case of writing reams and reams of content. No one wants to see paragraphs on Facebook. I'm sure you can agree when you're scrolling yourself. Just on an evening, if you see a massive post, you're not going to click on it. But if you see maybe a sentence or two with an eye-catching image or a video that's going to catch your eye, you're going to watch that video. You're going to want to click through and read more. It's not about on Facebook or any platform giving away all the detail. You want them to follow through to your website quite often to get them onto there so then they can explore your brand a bit more.
Okay.
So that's really important to think about.
Jonathan, I'm going to come to your question. So is it better to promote a specific product that you sell or the business as a whole?
I tell you what, it completely depends on what the objective of the business is currently. Say, for example, if you've got a new product launch, obviously you're going to want to shout out about that. It's a brand new thing. You need your audience to know about it. You need new audiences to know about it, not to go and buy it. But if, for example, you've not got that much going on, there's no specific campaigns, brand awareness is always good. And that's why I always suggest having something constantly going on, ticking away in the background, because that brand awareness, don't think it's just kind of like lower down the pecking order, as it were. That brand awareness is really key, because if you build up that brand awareness, build up your following, get people to recognize your logo, your branding, your style. When you have another product launch, for example, people will know, like, oh, that's so-and-so. I'll recognize them. I want to click through to find out more. So it's that constant building up. So I wouldn't say kind of prefer one over the other. Like I say, if you've got a new product, definitely shout out about that, but always have that brand awareness kind of ticking away in the background, just to keep building that momentum as you go.
To be fair, Jonathan should know that it's in the marketing section on the Roadmap MBA. We talk about, it's the Binet and Field study where you want 60-40, 60% brand building over time, and then the 40% sales activation. So in Jonathan's business, he does kind of high-end installations for audio visual systems and stuff. So I guess for Jonathan, it might be that if you have a special offer, 50% off or whatever, that is what you could push, but then balance that with more stuff about the business and what you're trying to do and the lifestyle of the people that have amazing systems and what that means to them and the joy they get out of it on family movie night and stuff. And it's selling the dream and then balancing that with Black Friday special deal, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Exactly, totally agree.
But again, just thinking this through, it feels again like it can't necessarily just be like a one-off, so like Harvey and Hugo do some of my PR and we've done press releases and I have more in my head, which we're going to do over time. But if you just do one-off once, it's not probably going to do anything. It's the idea that actually once a month or every so often, you're just building that awareness on what you're doing that hopefully over time, it's like one of the big things that I tell people about when the roadmap stuff is that it's been live for 7 months now. And I think it'll be another 2 years or so of constant me doing streams and pushing it until it almost gets its own momentum. But I'm doing it on like a 2-year time scale. But luckily, because I invest in the own stuff myself, I can do streams without having to do it. But actually, this still only hits my current audience, and that's the problem. And that's why it's quite an interesting, for me anyway, which is quite cool. So how we'll come to the agency next, but how, if people wanted to try it themselves, at least find out how to do it, where could they go to do that?
So Facebook has a fantastic platform where if you literally just type in kind of Facebook advertising help, they've got like a help center with lots of Q&As, lots of walkthroughs and things like that. And I'm pretty sure there's kind of a chat function as well if you needed to use that, especially if you've got a business profile and a page set up and everything, so that's perfect. But as I say, just have a look at the Facebook advertising platform, just have a play around with it. You can't do anything major unless you can launch ads, so you're fine, you won't be spending money until you click that final button, but it is just worth having a look around and just seeing the options that are available to you.
No, cool. I think it's interesting. And it's so that's how I imagine if people wanted to test the water themselves, but as we mentioned almost, where you do need the quality content which is going to engage people enough to, make them interact. How can, I guess, people engage with an agency to kind of do this, and what could you do for people?
Yeah, of course. So at Harvey Hugo, we can help with any kind of advertising, really. We cover Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it, we do it. So if you were interested in engaging with an agency, it's just that initial kind of piece of contact, whether that is a phone call with us, whether an email or drop us a Facebook message. And it would be a case of we'd have a conversation about what your kind of goals are, what you're trying to aim for, what your KPIs would be, what results you want to see. And then we drill down a bit more, learn a bit more about your audience. We then pull together kind of the demographics that are available on Facebook, suggest a budget, and we would then present that to you. And then we'd see if you're ready to go ahead. Obviously, we can help with the content side as well. We could even pull together an advertising strategy if that was needed. So say you wanted a 12-month plan of the adverts you could run and some ideas, we could pull that together, perhaps do a training session on it so we could set you up with the first one, and then you can just go ahead and do the next 11. So there's lots of different ways we could do it. It's not just a case of we'll just take it off you, or we can run it all for you, whichever way works best for you. We can train up team members if needed as well. So yeah, that's kind of the way we work. No,
honestly, it's funny because I learn a lot of stuff on YouTube. So if I the amount of stuff you can learn for free on YouTube is brilliant. So again, if you searched Facebook ads on YouTube, you'll get bombarded with people trying to sell stuff to you to do Facebook ads. But actually, you can often learn stuff. But I think what's because it's trying to give value to people to really understand it. And I think the takeaways just from me, to be honest, is the importance of that kind of the quality of the content, that realistically you probably have less than a second to kind of grab someone's attention. Because think of your own behavior. When I scroll through, occasionally actually even on Instagram, and is it the same for Instagram as Facebook? I know it's the same company.
Yeah, it's the same platform. You can run ads kind of on both, which is doable, but it is worth thinking about your audience, if your audience is different on Instagram than on Facebook.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. The demographics can sometimes be different. You usually get, in a nutshell, kind of an older audience on the Facebook and younger on Instagram. But yeah, you can definitely run them on both if you wanted to.
No, cool. It's just, but it's the fact that you have to just be dogged and just, that's not a Harvey Hugo dog pun, by the way, but it's just the idea to kind of just keep going. And I think so what would a small business with 3 people that might turn over £150,000, say, per year, what could a typical budget for them be just to have just some stuff ticking away to try and raise new audience, like every month kind of thing? Does it just vary on what you can afford?
Yeah, it definitely does. As with all advertising, the more you can afford, the bigger and better the results are. We would suggest a minimum of about £50 perhaps per ad, just to kind of get a good kind of build from it and good results from it. It's not very often we do ads that low. It's usually around 100, but you can go as high up as you wanted to. You can go into the thousands if you wanted to.
So
but it's just sorry.
No, I was going to say, but say for the £100, if you're Simon, who's got his t-shirt business, what reach might that get you? Is that like 1,000 people that you could target? Or I'm just trying to get a feel for it because I actually don't know the answer, but I think it'd be quite interesting.
To be honest, it's so difficult to say just off the top of my head, because depending on the page, depending on who you're targeting, how big your audience is, it's hard to say the size of the audience that you could get, because, as I say, it completely varies. When you look at the demographics section, when you're picking out who you want to target, obviously you narrow it down. So if you want to target the whole of UK, there'll be, hundreds and thousands. But if you then target just Darlington and just males, you might end up getting, to like 10,000 or so on. So it's quite hard to say how much you get specifically just for £100, but it's just worth playing around with it and unticking and ticking options, increasing your budget, maybe even by just £10 just to see what difference that will make. Because Facebook's really good kind of on the right-hand side when you're building your ad and choosing the demographics. It shows you the reach range and the click-through rate expected, the engagement rate expectations as well. So it gives you good estimates. So as I say, it's good to kind of play around just to see how those stats change.
And I think just thinking out loud as well, just from a business point of view, it's almost that if your average profit per sale, if someone actually buys your stuff, is £1, if it's going to cost you £5, I guess it depends on the lifetime value of the customer. My point is, I think people just need to think through. It's not just throwing £1,000 at adverts, because you might only get £400 worth of business from it. Arguably, but you're still raising awareness, and it's that balance, isn't it? It's not an easy one to kind of solve. If you were to create or share your 3 top tips for Facebook advertising, what would it be?
My main top tip would just be to don't give up and don't be put off if your first ad doesn't get the results expected. It is an absolute minefield. As I say, the algorithms constantly change. Different campaigns produce different results. Reach awareness, ads produce different results to traffic. So just don't be put off. Keep trying and try. That would be my second tip, would be to try different objectives, different ad types, see what works best for your audience. And just keep experimenting. And kind of my third tip will be just going back to making sure you start right at the beginning. Think about what your objective is, and think about what your audience want to see and engage with. What do they want to be inspired by? What will they want to click on and read or watch the most? That's kind of the main thing. And then once you've kind of got all those 3 things ticked, you can then just flow through the rest of the process, and then you'll hopefully get some fantastic results.
No, cool. Have you got any tips for websites or things where people can find out what their audience are interested in? Obviously, if it's your business, you should kind of know the answer, but I know there's certain websites where you can search for hot topics and stuff. I don't know if you have any tips on that. I am just completely ambushing you with these questions.
It's fine, don't worry. Off the top of my head, I don't have any in mind, but as I say, what we do is that we use we kind of delve into the client and say who describe your perfect customer. Like, what do they look like? What do they buy? What do they do for their hobbies? And by asking those types of questions, write down your answers, and then you'll be able to pick out exactly who you want to target. Because I'll say for different campaigns, you might want to be targeting different people with different interests. So really sitting back and thinking about that. Don't just think, we're a Darlington-based business, so we want to target everyone in Darlington. It's fine to do that, but you're not going to generate the most quality results. It's okay having a fantastic reach, but you want to make sure you're engaging people who actually want to buy from your business, who actually want to buy your service or your product. You want to make sure that you're going to build a loyal customer there that's going to generate a really strong relationship, that isn't going to ever stray away from your brand because they trust you 100% and you're the only one they're ever going to buy from. And that's the goal.
No, it makes sense. How different is this is Google advertising just completely different? I don't know the answer to these. That's all.
Google advertising is incredibly different. Google ads and things like that. I mean, as I say, every social platform is completely different. YouTube, different. LinkedIn's a whole other minefield, and Twitter as well. So as I said, just for maybe a good starting point, I'd say definitely for B2C businesses, Facebook's a really good starting point. And not to say that it's not for B2B businesses as well, depending on the campaign and the messaging, it's totally something to consider. But it's definitely a good place to start. And Facebook is good for perhaps those have lower budgets, because say, for example, on LinkedIn, we wouldn't recommend a budget lower than 100, 150 perhaps, because it is incredibly expensive on LinkedIn to advertise. But it does produce really high quality leads. So, it's kind of weighing up the differences, but I would say Facebook is a good kind of starting point for anyone who's brand new to advertising in general.
Because the other thing that Harvey Hugo did for me, and again, this is not a paid advert, I'm just telling you, is actually that, so I did the press release when I hit 19 countries with the roadmap. And one of the things that Charlotte, who's the MD at Harvey Hugo, always talks about is PR your PR, because if you do a press release and you get in the journal or the newspaper or B Daily or whatever, you can then share that on your own social media, unpaid, or I guess you could pay to do it as well. But then you've almost got the credibility of an outside source, not recommending you, but it kind of half is. But my point is, I think it's when you actually think through, it's the classic marketing mix term where it's having a nice blend of stuff so that you don't just hit people with one channel. They might see you in the newspaper, then they see you pop up on the feed. It's like, I've seen this around a little bit, I'll click on that. But I think it's that kind of, if it's almost no point just doing one advert once. It's a case of do it. And I'm still not at the point yet where with the roadmap to invest in advertising yet. Maybe in 6 months' time, because I'm still writing the version 2 and stuff. But it's definitely on my radar, and this has been really kind of useful. And then what I might do in the future is, if I have any, completely selfishly, it's like to get free consultancy, but to get advert questions about, say, Google ads or something else. If you're happy to, I might get you back on. But it's almost it's hopefully useful to people that might see this, but actually I think it's relevant, and it will help people, because everyone will have it at the back of their mind. And you always see, and actually I'll probably get more now, but adverts about this kind of thing. But if it's someone you've never seen before, you don't know if you trust them, it's just some guy that's popped up because you've Googled Facebook ads, then you're going to get targeted with, you know what I mean? And I think almost just with your semi-trusted source, so it's fine, obviously we know each other, but I think it's that trust is really important, that if you're going to invest some money in stuff, that actually you kind of buy into it, you know what I mean? Because it's a long game that probably won't have immediate impact, but if it's the right thing to do. And based on that, I know you can't go into specifics, but almost, I'm guessing you do Facebook ads for clients, and any good case studies that you can share, and it can just be general, but it's just, I think it always helps kind of tell a story.
Yeah, of course. So we work with an estate agent who we do regular Facebook ads for, and it's not just a case of we've not promoted their properties, for example. It's not just about that. It's not about that for us. It's about the general brand awareness and the general brand building. So we write blogs, thought leadership articles, case studies for landlords and things like that. So our ads are mainly based on the content that we're creating. So it's like you're saying, PR your PR. So you're making sure that you're sharing the content that you're creating, the fantastic work you're doing, mixed in with a few brand awareness ads, perhaps every other month, just making sure we're reaching new audiences and they're gathering on the Facebook page. And that's working quite well. It's not a massive budget that we're using, but it is helping it tick over. It is helping them reach new audiences. And they only have, like a small local area base. So it's not massive. But it is working to help them see that generate that engagement, and then taking that traffic over to their website where we want them to read the content that we're creating. And so another kind of example is a client who did a Christmas campaign. So it was a bit more specific, but it was a Christmas prize draw. And obviously with prize draws, everyone loves a prize draw. So it generates quite good engagement anyway. But again, it was to just do quite a low budget, but to make sure that it was still being shared to other audiences as well. Of course, with Facebook, you've just got to be careful of the encouraging people to like, share and comment. You can't do that on Facebook currently to enter a prize draw and things. And Facebook's quite strict on and will just reject your advert. So just depending on, I think it is for quite a few platforms, because obviously the audience are just going to engage through being paid to get an ad, really, and, you know, to get a prize. And it's not the audience you want to engage either. It's not going to be an audience that you're going to build that loyal brand relationship with. So it's quite good, actually.
It's a very good point, actually. It's, you know, sorry, it's almost where there's no point having 1 million followers if they're not million people will buy your product. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
You know, it's the classic thing of where you can get 200,000 likes, but did a single person actually buy your product? And I think that's the thing that people often get. They worry about with, is my live stream working? Is my PR working? Is whatever? And that's where almost the diagnosis part, the bit right at the start to figure out actually who are we targeting and why. It doesn't matter if only 5 people see your advert, if they're 5 qualified buyers that could actually and want to buy your stuff. And I think that's almost just, it's worth throwing out, just because it's very easy to fall into the rabbit hole of, oh, well, so-and-so's post gets 200 comments every time he does a live stream, but how many people are actually hiring him? You know, I think it's the important thing to consider, just in terms of the commercials, that it's not always about views as well. And this is, I know this is just thinking out loud, but it's my actual thought process. But, you know, this is what people will also think themselves, just when they're trying to decide what to do. But I think almost, I am conscious of your time. One of the big takeaways is it's the need for the content almost first, because actually, unless you've got content which you can put out organically, you don't have to pay to put that out. That's half the battle for me. And then it's actually then how can we just take that and amplify it and do more? There's no point just doing tons of stuff if it's crap. Do you know what I mean? So it's cool.
You just got to have a good mix of everything, like you say, and just making sure you've got those ideas in the background ready to go, and then do your advertising.
No, sweet. So how can people find you and get in touch?
So you can get in touch with us and just search Harvey Hugo in Google. You can find us on Facebook or any social media platform. We're even on TikTok as well, if you fancy looking on there.
See, TikTok's another one that I'm a 30-year-old man. I've never gone on it. I know that is the misconception that people say it's just about teenagers and stuff. But and dancing again, I don't do that anyway. But we'll say that for another day. But this is, I think, what's also really important is that when you have new platforms that launch, I'm still, you know, like 90% LinkedIn, and I dabble in the others. But almost you need someone that you kind of trust to say, look, this is a really good new thing. It's worth jumping on it. And then I guess the agency or whoever making it easy for that person to do, because a lot of people are scared to do stuff, especially if it's new. And I think Facebook is almost at the point where everyone's so used to it. It's been around for so long that it feels it's probably a more comfortable purchase to get into paid advertising versus paying to go on TikTok, which I don't know what it is, how it works and stuff as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So I appreciate your time. Thank you guys for the comments. It's been a pleasure to catch up. And then what I'll probably do just for kind of future masterclasses and stuff, I will try and just watch trends and watch what's interesting. And then if there's a major furlough change, or it sounds really bad, Natalie, but I've started to watch Bloomberg on YouTube because I'm a cool kid. And but they talk about, you know, big structural changes going on with stuff. So actually I might seek out someone that's an expert in, I don't know, something, and just try and make it interesting. But thank you for your time today. I do appreciate it. And hopefully we'll catch you soon. Cool. No worries.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.